Joining me now is Republican Congressman from Indiana, Marlin Stutzman. Congressman, thanks for joining us. You know, we're talking about this Tesla takedown. It's the story of the day all over the country and now the entire world. What are Republicans doing to hear out those concerned by Elon Musk's involvement in government? Because that is kind of the heart of the issue here.
Well, good morning. You know, it's tough to be in business and in politics. You know, there used to be a saying you know, be in one or the other. But as a businessman myself, it is hard. But at the same time, what I have found from Elon Musk, he's come down and visited us several times at the Capitol explaining what they're doing to find the waste, fraud, and abuse. And there's a lot of it. I mean, that used to be just a small kind of a number that we used to think was maybe 1%, 2%. But, you know, think of this as kind of a business that has grown, you know, over the years, and it's just so bloated and inefficient. What he's doing now is really important, and it's tough for him. He's in a tough spot because you think about what inflation has done to businesses in this country. You think about the regulations, that what it has done to business in this country. And at the same time, here Elon Musk is willing to sacrifice whatever, you know, stock price that Tesla has to make sure that that Washington is fixed and that America is on a strong track going forward. We have $36 trillion of debt. That, I believe, is the only driver that is driving him to come to Washington to help us get our budget back on track. And that's what he's doing, and I applaud that.
You know, many people would say that Elon Musk could take the financial hit, right, if this is what their goal is. But what do you have to say to voters who have lost their jobs as a result of Trump and Musk's plans? Because that's what we're seeing, too, at the town halls. People are really, really angry, and many people are scared.
But think about what jobs those are. I've been in the private sector for the last 8 years, and it is tough to hire people. It is tough to grow in the private sector. Most of the job growth that has happened over the past 8 years, the past 4 years, especially under the Biden administration, have been government jobs. There's opportunity in the private sector that would grow dramatically and quickly if we just knew that the economy was going to be strong if Washington got its act together. So, you know, I would just say that a lot of those jobs, and I see it. I mean, we know there are people that are they have clipboards that are just simply there for regulatory purposes, and a lot of those jobs aren't necessary. They will shift to the private sector. It's kind of like one or the other, but I know that the private sector would grow if we know that the government isn't going to overwhelm us. Tax policy is going to be good. Energy policy is going to be good. The country is going to be safe. So, you know, I think that what has happened is the Democrats have actually created this situation by growing the government too much.
Well, there's a lot of pushback on that, and we'll see how that plays out. Also want to switch gears and ask you about Vice President Vance. Back in D.C. after his trip to Greenland, we've been following his movements. The Danish foreign minister responded to Vance's message during his visit to the Danish territory. Take a listen to this.
Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is.
Many accusations and many allegations have been made. And of course, we are open to criticism. But let me be completely honest. We do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered. This is not how you speak to your close allies.
Okay, so we've got a war of words going on. How do you see this? I don't know if you call it a feud, but how do you see the situation that's going on with Greenland? Many people wondering, will America annex Greenland? How do you see it?
Well, first of all, Greenland is a remarkable place and has so many great assets and is really underutilized. And I think that's the point, is that for the Western Hemisphere, Greenland could be such a greater part of national security, of minerals and energy supply, and it could be a very wealthy nation. You know, Nick Begich is a good friend of mine who's a congressman from Alaska, and he talks about how beneficial you know, the Alaskans have it because of the resources that they have there. It's obviously a small population, but the same thing could happen for Greenland. And I think that the president and the vice president are exactly right, that let's have this conversation, and that we all know that we could help make Greenland not only better for them as Greenlanders, but it could also be better for the Western Hemisphere on so many fronts.
We appreciate your time, Republican Congressman Marlin Stutzman. Thank you for joining us and talking about a few issues. We appreciate it.